Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Serious Film Critics. My name is Sam.
And I'm David.
And we're joined by a very special guest this evening. You might remember him from memorable past episodes. I think last time he was here was Dunkirk. Adam is in the house.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? I was here for Dunkirk a couple months back.
Nice. Good to have you back, man.
Good to be back.
How's life been going the last few months? I'll update all our listeners on your travels.
Not too bad. I'm working at the local elementary school, helping the less fortunate ones out, but it's pretty good.
Hey, man, from the sound of it, you got a pretty sweet gig over there.
Yeah, if it paid a little more, it'd be sweeter, but it's not bad.
Well, good to have you been, Dave.
Decent.
This is actually the first time I'm actually back in La Plata recording with the boys. It's been a while. Usually we're doing it through Skype, but this time I'm at the home base here in Adam's basement. So
it's good to have you guys here.
Indeed. We got a good episode for you guys. This is basically just going to be a Star Wars episode. It's been long coming. We will be reviewing The Last Jedi. So get ready. We're going to be breaking into this thing. And we'll probably have a couple other Star Wars related news items. And the only other thing, we're just going to kick off this show with a couple trailers. So boys, nothing much going on. We're just hanging out here on this frigid -6-degree wind chill night here in Maryland.
It's supposed to be the coldest night in probably about 5 years here.
Oh my God.
It is bitterly cold outside, just like 0 degrees.
How much would it take you guys to spend you have to spend the night outside for the whole night? You could
do we get shelter or anything, or what?
You get a tent.
You get a tent?
Can I take whatever clothing and stuff I need out there, or what?
Yeah, you could have like a jacket, like a jacket and like your hoodie you have on there. You could have that.
I mean, I would start,
and like you could have gloves too.
I would start like 500, but you could probably work me down to like 100 bones.
Oh, you do it for 100, man? I was thinking I don't know.
I feel like a couple thousand.
No, I would do it for less than that.
You're risking some exposure out there.
Well, I don't think you'd freeze to death if you brought enough clothes out there. I mean, the stray cat sleeps on the front porch every night.
All I know is I walked into this basement from my car, which is like maybe 50 yards away, and I had a decently heavy faux leather jacket on and Under Armour, and I was freezing when I got in. That'd be brutal. And you just got a little.
Well, at least being in the tent would help with the wind.
That's true. I mean, the wind is what's causing the chill. But I think I'd be around the 1,000 range at minimum. But in essence, people, it's cold down here in Maryland, so stay warm. All right, guys, other than that, nothing much going on. We're watching the NFL playoffs on mute in the background. So the Rams are behind with the Falcons right now. So if anything changes there, we will update you. But and other than that, guys, I guess we can jump into this trailer. Basically, we're just going to talk about this new Jurassic Park movie that's coming out called Jurassic World: The Lost
Fallen Kingdom.
Yeah, I think it was. I saw it last night when I went to go see the Star Wars movie.
Yeah. And Dave just watched this memorable trailer a few moments ago, so we got to all update on it. Now, this thing looks really bad, boys.
First let's just talk about the plot. We don't even. The plot is basically that they have to go save the dinosaurs because the island is going to explode. Is that what's going on?
I guess the island which housed Jurassic Park and I guess Jurassic World or whatever is apparently has active volcanoes on it, and they're going off.
Oh, that's what it is.
So I guess. I mean, they're never mentioned in any of the other movies, but
yeah, I know.
Clearly, they're running out of ideas here.
You think if they built this park, like this multi-billion-dollar park, they would at least get a geologist to say, "Hey, there's an active volcano here that can ruin the whole show."
Yeah, and it's not like obviously this volcano is going off a couple years after events going on there. So I'm pretty sure when Jurassic World was built there, that multi-billion-dollar park, they would be like, okay, look, there's a volcano here that could go off at any time.
Yeah, literally, a couple years in geological time is a few seconds. They would be like, that volcano is going to go off any time now. We cannot build here. They would have known it was there and it was getting ready to unless they're going to claim that I don't know, they did something to activate it. But even then,
that would be awful if they did that.
Yeah, they still could have just gone somewhere without a volcano that was any risk at all.
What's that corporation, that weird shadow organization that's in Jurassic Park World?
Oh,
man. Engine or something like that?
I think it is Engine.
Yeah, they activate the volcano.
I don't know why I was going to say Omnicore. What is Omnicore from?
That sounds familiar.
I don't know. I don't know what I'm thinking of there. But yeah, Engine, I think that's it. Jeff Goldblum is in this trailer for 2 seconds in a courtroom. Looks like he's probably making a paycheck in this movie.
I really like how he's they were here before us. No, they weren't. You cloned the dinosaurs. You made them. They weren't here before us.
I guarantee you he's going to have some play on that famous quote he has in the first one where man kills dinosaurs, dinosaurs kills man. It's probably going to be a longer version
of
that.
It is. Life finds a way line.
Yeah, somebody else said it though, right?
Yes.
Sounded like
Didn't
somebody
Chris
else
Pratt say that?
I think Chris Pratt
No,
was
but
saying.
in the original trilogy, didn't he say that?
Yeah, no,
yeah.
he does, but I think
He has another
I'm pretty
quote,
sure
too.
Chris Pratt says it in this one.
It kind of looks like Lost World a little bit at the beginning.
Yeah, it just looks bad. Like the performances don't look good. Visually, it doesn't even look interesting. Like it just looks kind of.
When Chris Pratt was running away and he was like, "Run!" I kind of got the impression he was like Andy from Parks and Recreation because he sounded kind of stupid saying it.
He did, and the way the dinosaurs were running next to him, like big goofy, looking, like
Yeah.
long necks, and like the ones with.
It'll make $500 million probably because we're.
Well, it needs to make more than that.
Yes.
It needs to probably make $1 billion to break even.
Well, it will because we're stupid and we'll all go see it during the summertime and so we have nothing better to do.
What should we see this week? Yeah, how about the new Jurassic World movie? We'll probably end up reviewing it on this show.
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
If we can just shit all over it, but we'll see. I don't know if there's that much else to say about it. I think it just looks really bad. And the first movie, which I think the first movie was pretty overrated too. Not Jurassic Park, the first Jurassic World reboot or whatever you want to call it. I didn't think that was that great either. So this does not look like it's up in the ante too much. So, all right, boys, should we just get into it here and talk some Star Wars Last Jedi? This is a big one.
Yeah.
Episode 8.
Yeah, we're all Star Wars fans here. So.
We are all Star Wars fans, so let's get that out of the way right now. And I guess we'll also say this is going to be a spoiler-filled review.
That's how it always is. But
it always is, but yeah, if you're worried about Star Wars spoilers or just don't listen anymore. I'm sure you've already seen the movie anyway. It's like January 6th or whatever.
Yeah, everybody has seen it.
We've all seen it, so... All right, I guess you want to.
Yeah, let me see if I can
this thing, Dave?
recollect my thoughts here because it's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah, it's been
I just saw it last night,
Yeah,
so
so
if you missed something, I can back you up.
Adam can fill the blanks in because it's been a few weeks since I've seen it too.
So it opens with I think the crawl tells us basically that it was called the Republic or the New Republic. What were they calling themselves? I
The
forget.
Resistance.
No, but before that, because remember in the Force
I think
Awakens,
it was the New Republic.
the New Republic, yeah, the New Republic has fallen. That's all over with, and now it's the Resistance again. And the First Order has basically been hunting them around the galaxy. And we find out that like they're based on the planet they're on. There's a bunch of Star Destroyers there getting ready to blow them to hell. So it opens with it shows the Star Destroyers are getting ready to take them out, and Poe Dameron flies his X-wing up there and has this long bit about "Can you hear me now?" basically. Like the joke from those old Verizon commercials.
Really bad.
Ooh,
Yeah,
my
he says
God.
where he talks to General Hux and just so his in time for his I think his engines are powering up or something.
Yeah, he's trying to stall.
Yeah, he's stalling time. He flies down into the Star Destroyer, takes out all their turbo lasers and anti-air defenses.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. I guess they're just showing like how good of a pilot he is, but still,
he single-handedly takes out a Star Destroyer.
I thought that
basically.
was pretty cool.
I mean, it was cool, but it also shows that he's literally without Poe Dameron, the Resistance would be nothing, and that's a problem I have in this movie. They would be nothing without him, and they still treat him like shit.
It's true, but I think they at least establish in that scene that he is a badass.
Yeah, exactly, and they treat him like they don't need him, and they do fucking need him. They were dead meat if not for him.
All right, we'll get into all of it.
Yeah.
just keep going.
Yeah, so he takes out all their air defenses, and then they use that to get away. And he's like, "Oh, they also sent out their bombers because they want to actually take out the Star Destroyer." And during the process, their bombers are just getting picked off left and right because nobody's nearly as good as Poe Dameron, unfortunately. So I think is it Leia who orders them to fall back, and Poe is like, "No, we need
It's
to take."
Leia, yeah.
So they're trying to make their escape, and Poe decides to stay, and they do take out the Star Destroyer, but they lose every bomber they have left, which was like maybe 6 total. So that happens. They get away. They jump to light speed, and Poe gets demoted for losing all their bombers and destroying the Star
Basically
Destroyer.
insubordination.
Insubordination, yeah. And then the Star Destroyers just jump right back onto the location, which we later find out that they can track them through hyperspace. So then I think this is when it cuts to Rey on.
Yeah, it cuts to Rey on the island.
Yeah, so Rey has basically found Luke. It's like the planet's called like Achto or something. And it's like literally like the sacred planet of the Jedi. And she's there trying to get Luke to train her, and he basically just tells her to go away, leave me alone. Like he gives her the lightsaber, or she gives him the lightsaber, and he literally throws it, which I thought was funny. But
I liked it. I thought that was unexpected.
Yeah.
Especially how much they build it up at the end of Force Awakens.
so she keeps trying to convince him to train her, and he won't do it. And he tells her like the Jedi need to end. And then I think she basically camps outside of his and meanwhile, Chewie and the Millennium Falcon are there too. Chewie flew her there.
Yeah.
So she basically camps outside his house and just like wears him down. And she's like, "I'll give you 3 lessons, and then you need to leave me alone." And I don't even remember what the 3 lessons are. I think he gives her literally 1 lesson in the Force, and the rest he doesn't even do anything else. So then it cuts back to the Resistance, and they find out that the First Order has track them down. They have no idea because it's supposed to be impossible. And then they deduce that they must have a way to track them through hyperspace. So basically their whole plan is to divert all their power to their rear shields and just fly away until they figure out another plan. So basically they started low-speed space chase, whereas the First Order basically is like, well, we don't give a shit because, we're just going to kill them when they run out of fuel. So they initiate this low-speed chase, and Poe wants to find out the plan, but Holdo is a new character played by Laura Dern, decides that she's not going to tell him. So meanwhile, we find out that Rey has like a little tracker, so they know where she is, and Leia tells Finn about this, and Finn wants to leave to go find her, and then another new character named Rose like finds out he's trying to desert and tases him, and then they come up with a plan with Poe that they're going to go onto the Star Destroyer and destroy their hyperspeed or their lightspeed tracker. And meanwhile, obviously, like, they don't tell Holdo and Leia about this because they have their own plan that they refuse to tell anybody. So then I guess it cuts back again to Rey and Luke, and I also don't remember what else they did. I know he gives her a lesson, and first he gives her a lesson where she basically uses the Force, and he sees how strong she is and actually scares him again. Then he shows her like the pit which represents the dark side or whatever.
Yeah, like kind of like the dark side cave in Empire.
Yeah, and then he also shows them the like there's like these keepers of the island which are not important at all, but they're in the film. So then
I want to see a movie about those guys.
Yeah.
The maids.
So then they find out that the Resistance capital ship has about 18 hours of fuel left, and
I think Luke was getting it on with those.
Yeah.
It's an interesting point. I don't know.
Let's carry on.
Yeah, let's not speculate about that
Did he
yet.
ever have like any relationships with anyone?
Well,
in the Legends canon, he definitely did.
Yeah, with Mara Jade, but I don't know if that's Legends canon or if that's other canon. But
yeah, Legends is the non-canon.
Is that?
He was getting pretty nasty with that creature on the island.
Oh God, yeah, I forgot about that scene where he milks the milk monster.
I thought that was amazing.
I thought that was so bad.
Oh man, that look he gives her with the milk dripping down his beard. I thought that was awesome.
That was fucking horrible. He fucking has like this space cow with like giant cow udders, and he fucking squeezes that thing. Milk sprays out of it, and he chugs that shit.
I saw some picture online. It was just like Kylo's red face on the
Yeah.
There's some pretty good memes with shirtless Kylo.
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
get there,
yeah.
but it's not really a plot point. He's just shirtless in one scene. And
And he looks ridiculous.
there's some. His pants are like up to his nipples. Like, it's amazing.
And people are like trying to point out that it's like a bandage or something.
No,
but it doesn't make him look any less ridiculous. He just looks fucking ridiculous. Like literally, his pants are up to his nipples, basically.
He's decently big though. Like
Yeah.
Adam Driver's put on some muscle. Like he is like gangly and everything else I've seen him in. He must have been hitting the weights for this movie.
Yeah, for that one scene. Probably.
For that one
one scene.
He had to seduce
He
Rey.
demanded it. He's like, I've been working out so much. I need to show these people a little something.
They're like, all right, but you got to pull those
Fruits
pants
of my
up.
effort.
Pull them up.
We'll do the scene on one condition. I want those pants up to your neck.
Oh man! All right, we need to get back on track here. All right, so basically, Poe, Finn, and Rose, they ask, what's her name, Maz Kanata or whatever?
Yeah.
Because there's no way to get onto a Star Destroyer, apparently. But she tells them there's one guy in the entire galaxy that can do it, and he's on this casino planet, which I forgot the name of.
Canto Bite.
Canto Bite, yeah. So they decide to go there while they continue their low-speed chase. And during this low-speed chase, their like support ships are just getting picked off like flies, basically. Dropping like flies, I should say. So then it cuts back to Rey, and then we see more of Rey. Luke tells Rey the story about Kylo Ren, about how he was afraid of his power. He knew he was going to the dark side. I don't think he tells her the truth about how he was thinking about killing him yet. And then she has like a little like spirit vision thing where she like is trying to uses the dark side to try and find out who her parents are, and all she sees is herself, which I don't know the meaning of that. And then she starts having like some hot communications with Kylo Ren, yeah. So, which we don't understand at first. She basically just starts talking to him and doesn't understand how they're able to communicate with each other. And this is when we have the shirtless scene where he's...
Wait, are they talking in the shirtless scene?
Yeah.
Oh,
she's like, can you put a cowl on, please?
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, that was.
I'll pull my pants up instead.
Yeah, like
That was the compromise.
Yeah, there's a lot of like weird sexual tension going on between them. We also get a little bit about Snoke. We see his throne room looks amazing, by the way.
It does.
Yeah, so they keep having their conversations. She basically tries to flip him to the light side, and he basically tries to say, fuck the Jedi, fuck the Sith. I'm just going to do what I want, because he's getting a little angsty. So then finally, I think, then he tells her the truth that Luke thought about killing him and then changed his mind, and then that's why he basically took a bunch of his students, burned down the temple he'd built, and then went and made the Knights of Kylo Ren, which are not seen in this movie whatsoever.
No, they're not.
I guess they just got erased from the canon. So they make their escape, and then Luke basically decides that he's a failure and he's not going to train Jedi anymore. So then finally Rey decides to just leave because she knows that Luke can't train her because she's already better than she needs to be as a fighter. So she leaves, and then does she leave before Luke has the... Oh, no, I guess she doesn't. Well, because Luke speaks to Yoda. He shows up as a Force ghost, and he tells Luke that Rey doesn't even need any training, which is true. She doesn't. And that the Jedi Order, they have the sacred books of the Jedi are on the planet, and he's like, we don't even need these. So he burns down like the sacred Jedi tree, which I didn't really understand.
Didn't Yoda do it?
Yeah, Yoda does it. And I think that this is either before or right after Rey left, but
I think it's right after she leaves. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, she hops on the Falcon and flies to. I guess she knows where Kylo. Oh, does she like have? Does the tracker go both ways or something? Because she goes to go. I think she goes to find Finn, and he's on that Star Destroyer that Kylo Ren is on.
Yeah.
Because at this point, actually, we
either that or I think she does like know where. No, I think she does use.
I think she might use the tracker because she ends up going to the Star Destroyer they're on.
She does, yeah.
So then at this point, we go back to Canto Bight, which is this opulent casino 1%er planet. Very subtle. And they go there to find like this dashing rogue that can hack them into the Star Destroyer. And then they, as soon as they get there, they are about to find him, and then they get like knocked out and put into jail. And they find the only other guy in the galaxy that can happen to hack into a Star Destroyer. And they don't even know if he's telling the truth, but he is. Yeah. So they have like this is a very long sequence. They have to break out. They do.
They have some like ridiculous chase scene where they're on like
there's like these
oxen or something like that. I don't know what
they're like the horses things.
Yeah, some sort of horned beasts.
Yeah, like Rose is
floofs.
Floofs.
Yeah, Rose is very upset the way they.
I'm just kidding. They're not floofs.
Really? I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me the effort that they put in some of the aspects of this movie. They call them floofs.
There's some kind of weird horse monster. They're supposed to like because they do like horse races with them.
I can't remember what they're called.
Rose is very upset at how they treat those things, and she's also upset because these people sell weapons and they're evil capitalists. And they sell weapons to the Empire, and then it turns out they sell weapons to the Resistance too, which I don't know why. I don't know. I don't want to get into that yet.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
So they have this long scene where they get out and they meet the guy they met in the jail cell, played by Benicio del Toro, was named DJ, and they don't know if he's telling the truth or not. But he breaks out with them, or he breaks them out specifically.
Was that really his name, DJ?
Yeah, it was DJ.
That is like not anything close to what I thought it was.
It's not even a Star Wars name. Yeah, so he picks him up in a ship he stole, which I don't know why they didn't think he stole that ship, because he obviously did. That he picks him up, and then he starts taking him to the Star Destroyer, and then he explains that these evil 1% people on that planet were actually selling X-Wings to the Resistance too. So, and he's like basically this whole like profiteer. He doesn't care who's bad or good. There is no bad and good, I think he tries to say.
Well, I think he's just kind of a morally gray character but
he also kind of preaches about it too. He's like, there is no bad or good. There's just whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what he's preaching. To him, there aren't any sides.
And apparently, during the scene, we go back to the ship again, and Poe finds out that they're just going to abandon the capital ship and put everybody on the transport ships, which don't have shields, so they're going to get dropped like it's hot, basically. So when he finds this out, he actually organizes a mutiny and takes over the bridge, and then tells Finn and Rose that if they don't get on there and do that thing soon, they're gonna get on those transports and everybody's gonna die. And meanwhile, Holdo still has a plan that she still hasn't told Poe, because why would she? So they get on the Star Destroyer. They get to the room with the hyperspace tracker, and before they can do it, they get caught, and DJ flips on him, and he somehow figures out the plan. I guess he overheard it about the transports, but he didn't know they were going to be stealth. I think that's important to note.
Well, I mean, I guess he
knew that they were going to... I guess he overheard them talking about them putting everybody on the transports, abandoning the ship, but he didn't... The whole point was that they were like going to be stealth.
Well, I mean, I feel like the Empire probably knows that the rebels have stealth technology, so maybe once that... I don't know. Maybe, yeah. I guess it's not necessarily a problem, but... So he flips on them, and then Captain Phasma's getting ready to execute them, and then... Oh, yeah, what is it, BB-8? Yeah.
He's in this movie, too. He does some funny stuff.
Yeah, BB-8's good.
He hop into a ATST and just starts like opening fire on them.
Yeah.
And then Finn and
Actually, that seemed like a little much to me. I like everything else he does. I was like, in an ATST, like,
yeah.
How did he get up there?
He's like a little fucking basketball. Like, how did he get up there?
At least R2 had like jetpacks, didn't he?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe BB-8
I'm not going
does.
to worry about that. It
is a little
out of everything he
problematic.
does in this, that was one where I was like, what?
Because he does some pretty funny stuff at
He
the
does.
casino where they're giving him the coins.
That was great. And I like the first scene where he's in he kind of uses his head to like cover up all the electrical.
Oh yeah. When
malfunctions.
Poe's X-wing's
Yeah.
getting shot up, yeah. So he saves them, and then Finn and Captain Phasma have a little showdown, and Captain Phasma maybe falls to her fiery death. We're not 100%
Oh,
sure.
she's dead.
You think so?
Yeah, I think
So she's clearly Boba Fett. She has Boba Fett written all over
I
her.
think she was intended to be the Boba Fett of these movies, but
And that's the thing, though. Like, that's
I
what
don't think
Boba
anybody cared about her.
And that's the thing, though, too. But it's like they did her the same way Boba Fett really wasn't in the original trilogy that much.
Yeah.
He just goes out in a blaze of glory.
Yeah,
after
she
once-
kind of did get the Boba Fett treatment, but there was a lot of promise too that there was going to be a lot more with her character, and there
She
wasn't.
seemed really cool.
Yeah, but there really wasn't. She was just kind of. I don't even know if she was in the other part of the movie, and except for that end showdown.
I don't think she is.
She's literally just like, okay, I'm here, and it basically felt like she was in this movie to give Finn somebody to fight.
Yeah, because
Somebody
Finn,
cool to
Finn doesn't even need to be in this movie, to be
No.
honest. Yeah, so then, meanwhile, Rey meets Kylo, and then he takes her to the throne room, and then Snoke basically throws her around like a rag doll. And then Kylo Ren just like decides that he wants to take over, so he basically tricks Snoke and ends up killing Snoke, and then they have this long showdown with all the Praetorian guards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they kill all of them, and then how does Rey escape? Does she just get back on the Falcon or what?
They have like a
Her and
they have like a little struggle. Her and Kylo Ren have a look because Kylo like wants her to join him.
Or does she escape when they get blown up by the?
Yeah, they
Right
rip the
after
lightsaber
that.
Yeah.
out.
So then
she gets away.
So then what happens is after they catch them, they start getting blown up, and then they know about the transports. So they thought the transports were just going to sneak away, and they leave Holdo behind to stay on the ship. And she tells Poe the plan. Now she tells him the plan. So she stays behind.
This
and
is where Leia's back, right?
yeah, Leia's back too. Yeah, so everybody gets on the ships except Holdo, and then now they know about the transports, so they start blowing up the transports. So Holdo turns the ship around and does this jumps to light speed and basically destroys all three of their Star Destroyers, including their like big capital ship, like Snoke's ship.
Yeah.
So they just wreck like freaking their best stuff with one ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, so after that, I think that's when everybody escapes. Of course, like I guess the ship can still fly because they go to this planet called Crate, which is really well fortified. And the plan is to get down there and call for help and expect somebody to show up in the next like 15 minutes, which was a pretty stupid idea too. So they get down there, and then the First Order just chases them back down to the planet. They hole up in this
Like a mine.
yeah, it's like a giant mine that's really well fortified. And then the First Order drops all their AT-ATs down there and is getting ready to wreck them. They have these giant battering ram lasers, which I'm not sure why they were called battering ram lasers. They just called them like lasers. They didn't ram anything.
Well, I guess it's just intended to blast through something like a door, wall or something.
So so they put out the distress call, and then they sent out these little
What if they just had Grond from the Lord of the Rings movies? The same prop and everything. That would be good.
Yeah. So then they send out these little like crappy, I don't even know what they were called. I forgot what they were called. Like speeders. They're like fighters that
basically
can't
this
even like get off the ground.
Outdated starfighter speeders.
So they do that, and they hope that help is coming. And then Rey comes down in the Millennium Falcon and helps draw the TIE fighters away. So then nobody comes because nobody cares about them, apparently, except for Luke shows up on the planet. And they open fire on him. They can't kill him for some reason. And then Kylo goes down and has a little fight with him. And then we find out that he was literally just a projection of Luke, and Luke is still on Ahch-To. And then while they were doing that, they got bamboozled, and like the Resistance, what's left of them with like 15 people, like escaped on the Millennium. The entire Resistance fits on the Millennium Falcon now. So they get on that and they fly away, and Kylo Ren just like freaking blows a blood vessel. He's so mad.
Even his dad's dice disappear in his hands.
Yeah. And I think that's it. What else happens?
That's pretty much
They
it.
get on the ship. We see that Rey saved the Jedi text for some reason. She meets Poe Dameron. I guess they wanted to address that.
They didn't meet in Force Awakens?
I guess they didn't meet in Force Awakens. They went out of their way to make sure that they met in this one, or to show that they didn't know each other.
If Rey and Poe get together, that's gonna be crappy.
I don't think that's happening.
Row?
Yeah, what is that? What's the name for Rey and Kylo? Raylo? It's Raylo.
Raylo? Yeah, that's pretty good.
So I skipped over a lot of stuff, but
that's a good general outline though. And honestly, go see the movie if you haven't seen it.
Well, I'm not going to tell you to go see it, but
that's true. All right, so there's a lot to talk about here, boys. So should we just start this off by kind of giving a general idea of what we thought of the movie, and then we'll break it down into all the specifics?
I think I want to start with like my broader concerns and then go to my more specific ones. Yeah, and then I can talk about stuff I liked, because there was some stuff I thought was awesome, but not much. I think my broadest concern really was like The Force Awakens tried to set something up new, like they were the New Republic. They actually were in control of the galaxy for once, and the Empire was on the back pedal. And then we reset that, and it's the Empire's back in control, and they're just the rebels again. So it's like all the progress they made between the last trilogy and the next movie is just erased. And they're literally, not only that, but the First Order literally has like unlimited resources, and the Republic never had. It doesn't seem like they ever had anything. Like, even if they're like the remnants of the Empire still has like infinitely more resources than the New Republic did.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start off by saying I really enjoyed the movie. I'd say I borderline loved it, but I do have a lot of concerns about the movie. Most of them, to me, are more in the nitpicky realm, but I did love the movie. I will also say I don't think it ties in particularly well with Force Awakens. I agree with you there.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of issues when you look at Force Awakens going into this movie, things that don't make sense, and clearly, Rian Johnson, I think, wanted to go in a different direction than a lot of the things J.J. Abrams established in Force Awakens. And I think for me, in terms of a standalone movie, it worked really well for me in Last Jedi. I don't necessarily think it's a cohesive part of the trilogy, going off what Force Awakens established, but I really enjoyed the movie as a standalone movie. I know it's not a standalone movie, but I enjoyed the movie on its own merit, and I like the different directions it went in. What'd you think, Adam, overall?
While I was in the theater, I really I hated the beginning, and then the middle of the movie kind of was good, and then I didn't like the ending. So it was yeah.
So kind of
It was like an arc. Like I hated the beginning with like the Marvel jokes in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then towards the end, I didn't care much for the ending sequence.
Man, it's really hard to jump into this thing because there's so many different angles we could approach this from, and we're going to get to all of them. But I guess, do we want to start from the beginning and the Marvel jokes? I mean, that's because that was one of my issues as well. There is some humor in the beginning of this movie that was absolutely brutal.
Yeah,
it's between. And one of my other big problems with the whole series, the new trilogy, is this General Hux character.
Yeah, me too. Well, like
I am just not a fan of General Hux or Domhnall Gleeson.
Can I touch on that for a second? Because it seems like in the original trilogies, like the Empire, at least they were like competent. Like the leadership was competent. Like the Admiral in the first, what was the Admiral?
Grand Moff Tarkin.
Yeah, Tarkin. Like he was seemed like a shrewd, like smart individual. It seems like the guys in the First Order can't get their heads out of their asses. Like they're just completely just.
I don't even know if it's definitely necessarily incompetence, because General Hux does manage to.
Well, it seems like he can fuck up a cup of coffee. Like everything
he does, but he also manages to. However, he manages to infiltrate the flagship or whatever and install that lightspeed tracker. To me, the biggest problem is he's just a bad performance. Like it's just so corny. I actually looked up some General Hux choice cut lines here. Let's just look at some of these. We got "This is Hux. You and your friends are doomed. We will wipe your filth from this galaxy."
Yeah, it's like he really over-delivers.
He really over-delivers every line. It feels like his influence in that character was all of like the side lieutenant characters in the original trilogy, like the ones that be like, "You rebel scum," or or "Good, our first catch of the day." It looks like he just watched those guys and was like, even though I'm a much bigger character in these movies, I'm just gonna deliver all my lines like that. It's just, I don't know, it doesn't work for me. Also, the humor is just brutal in that segment. It's basically Poe and Hux going back and forth.
Yeah, first of all, he bites onto that stupid joke and he just lets him keep him on the string for 5 minutes while he's charging his thing up.
Yeah.
And it's like he comes off as a complete idiot there.
He does come off as an idiot in that scene. It's basically like
one of his officers, I believe he's trying to bamboozle you or stall or something like that, and he's like, I know that.
And it's really Poe is able to fool him with a faulty connection joke. It's oldest trick in the book.
Yeah, first of all,
Hux.
I mean, it's they were getting ready to literally eliminate the and I mean, I get he explains later that because they can track him through hyperspeed that he's not too worried, but he was getting ready to put the death blow to him, and that would have been it. And he's like, let's see what this guy's got to say first. No, let's just kill them. And that's what they would have done in the original trilogy. They didn't mess around. They just when they blew up Alderaan, they was take it out.
Vader would have sat there and listened to that?
No.
Yeah, Grand Moff Tarkin would have been like, you may fire when ready.
Yeah, exactly. And Vader probably would have freaking force choked him through his X-Wing if he tried to pull that crap on him.
Yeah, that was I guess we can address the humor first, because most of the other humor worked for me. That first scene did not at all. I thought there were some really funny scenes with Luke that really worked.
I actually really didn't like most of Luke's humor. I thought a lot of Luke's humor felt very Marvelish too. They just pulled these stupid. He had too many zingers. The one I really didn't like, he was like, where are you from? She's like, I'm from nowhere. And he's like, nobody's from nowhere. And she's like, I'm from Jakku. He's like, yeah, that is pretty much nowhere. That felt so out of character. He wouldn't make a dumb joke like that.
What was that scene where he was hitting her with something? That's the Force.
I loved that. I was cracking up at that. And that felt like Luke that felt like a joke Luke would make to me. The only one I didn't like that he said was, it just felt weird where she was like, what is it? Rey says something to him where she's like, no one is much like me or something. He's like, I can't imagine why. That just felt weird. But
or that he's like, every word you just said was totally wrong. I didn't like that joke that much either.
Because he uses that again later in the movie. I thought that worked.
And the thing is, it feels like that the main problem with the humor is it was so it just stuck out too much. They would just take serious scenes and then stick a joke in there, especially with Hux where he's blasting Luke. He's like, do you think you got him? That was kind of a dramatic scene. It's all right, Hux. Yeah.
I don't think that was supposed to be a joke, really, though. I think it's just I feel like it's almost like the delivery of that line is just.
No, I think that the cadence was supposed to be funny because I
feel like that's just Domhnall Gleeson's cadence.
He does suck.
He says every line like that. They should change him to General Sucks. That's my opinion, but yeah, I don't know. I have to say I don't think the humor is nearly as good as in the original trilogy, but it wasn't. And it felt kind of in line with Force Awakens for me.
You notice they didn't really, in the original trilogy, C-3PO was the sole comedic relief. They barely used him in this movie at all.
Well, C-3PO, I think with a lot of the old characters, they're kind of phasing them out or not making them essential parts. But BB-8 I thought was good. I think BB-8's been good in both movies, and I think he fills in as kind of that wacky droid counterpart that you always have in a Star Wars movie. I liked him a lot better than whoever that was in Rogue One.
Oh yeah, K2SO or whatever.
I thought he sucked. I like BB-8. I think BB-8.
I like BB-8 too. I thought he was funny, and I thought the Porgs were the one really funny thing with the Porgs.
Let's talk Porgs. I thought the Porgs were good.
Yeah, I thought they were good. I thought I was gonna hate those damn things.
I did too, man. I was ready too. As soon as they were on screen, I was like, ugh.
Yeah,
I had a frown on my face, and they managed to win me over because they weren't in it.
They were really barely in it.
They weren't in it enough, but they were in it enough to establish themselves. But they were cute. They were they never got in the way too much. They didn't do anything too ridiculous. I thought the balance in it was good. And there's a scene with Chewie eating about to eat a pork.
Yeah, that was really funny. The funniest I thought was what I was saying when they're trying to fly and it's the pork keeps getting in the way and he's freaking out. And Chewie's has to keep shoving him out of the way and stuff.
Yeah, that was pretty good. So what else can we jump into here? There's so many different things that we can get into that do you want to keep talking about because obviously you guys did not like the movie nearly as much as me. So do you want to get
let me point out a pretty big plot hole to me is when Snoke gets Rey, he's trying to interrogate her, where's Luke Skywalker? You think the First Order would have checked the Jedi sacred planet where the sacred
I'm not sure that I don't know if they know.
Yeah, it's not necessarily
that. I think it's a long lost
really
island. Obviously if Snoke knew where that was, he would be there.
Well, hold on. Here is a plot hole that I think we should address. He says that he went somewhere where nobody would find him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because first of all, is that the same planet he was doing the Jedi shit on, the raising the Padawans, or was it a different planet?
I think it was a different planet because obviously Kylo would know where that was.
Okay, yeah. So he went to, but he sent out a map of how to get there. He gave them a map how to get there.
Yeah, but only R2 and that Max von Sydow
Yes. So why, if he didn't want to be found, why would he give them a map on how to find him?
Well, I think he kind of had a fail safe if, there was a crisis situation where someone needed to find him for something. I think he wanted to kind of leave the door slightly cracked as to where he is.
I mean, he makes a very good point. Like, I came here not to be found, and then he was like, "Here's a map to find me."
He does, but also at the end of the movie, it's not as much I think he wanted to be found, but he also delivered when he absolutely needed to. And
I mean, he did, but he could have done a heck of a lot more in the beginning. I mean, he probably would have torn Kylo Ren limb from limb.
Yeah.
And I mean, he could have done that a long time ago.
All right. Well, do we want to stay on plot holes? Because
I mean, the biggest one for me, and this isn't so much of it is, I think it is a plot hole. First of all, like a lot of people have said, is the entire casino sequence really didn't go anywhere. I mean, it went to where it led was they ended up, because they did that, most of the transports ended up getting destroyed. But
yeah, I guess that's the only place it led to.
But it's like, really, that stuff didn't need to happen. They could have just figured out those transports were flying away without any of that happening and blowing them up anyway.
See, for me, it's not as much that scene was a plot hole or like it didn't need to be in there. I think it needed to be in there because it was a classic, high risk, high reward plan that Poe had. And I think that's a big theme in this movie is, what does it mean to be a hero? And I think that plan was a classic Poe plan. Like, it was high risk, but also high reward. And it just didn't end up working out in this movie. But I think that was part of the commentary of the movie, or is what does it mean to be a hero? And there are multiple ways you can be a hero. And I know you weren't a big fan of how the Poe character was handled. I guess we can get into that, Dave.
Yeah, what really bothers me about this movie is the way that they treat Poe's character. Because first of all, I don't remember how much he does in the Force Awakens. Because I know he's on, when they go to Starkiller Base, he's on Starkiller Base. Does he like blow it up or what?
Yeah, he's a badass in Force Awakens.
I mean, literally. If not for Poe Dameron, the Resistance would not exist. Because first of all, they are in the beginning of this movie, they're getting ready to be destroyed by that Star Destroyer, and he single-handedly disables it, so it has to pull away.
He does, and he's incredibly badass in that scene. I mean, the way he pilots that X-wing, I thought was really cool.
Yeah, that was a cool.
Like the way
scene.
he uses the brake on it, I thought that's.
But what bothered me about that is the way that I fucking hated Holdo, because she goes on this egotistical power trip on him, and it's like, you literally owe every single person's life to that guy on the ship, and you're going to literally treat him like that. Like, all she had to do was be like, look, and listen, we do have a plan. Here it is. I mean, it's not like he was going to tell people, but instead she wanted to get one over on him because she wanted to teach him a lesson about how he needs to keep his mouth shut or something. And it's like, listen, that guy literally saved all your asses 5 minutes ago. Why don't you fucking show him some respect? He saved your asses in the last movie too. You can't make a character like a god and have him do all this heroic stuff and then have all the other characters show all this disdain for him, because that's what she did.
But then again, I kind of disagree there, because at the end of the movie, both Laura Dern and what's her name, Holdo?
Yeah, Holdo.
Holdo and Leia both admit they like him, because Leia at the end is like,
Yeah, but when she refuses to tell him that plan, it's literally, for me, it was a power trip. It was just a pure power trip.
See, I didn't think it was a power trip. The way I looked at it is the situation they were in demanded, and I think that's the commentary on being a hero in this movie, is sometimes you have to be the bold, brash hero. Sometimes you have to be a more cool, level-headed hero. Like in Force Awakens, they needed the bold, brash hero because
they needed him in this movie because they would not have made it past that Star Destroyer without him. They can't show him any respect.
They did, but also the Star Destroyer, I think it was kind of implied they could have gone to light speed, but he wanted to destroy it because it was a dreadnought or whatever.
Yeah, but I'm saying that before that, like, he just disabled its air defenses, which made it get away. But like, they weren't even off the planet. It was getting ready to open fire on the planet when he did that stuff.
Well, no, the last transport got off the planet as right after it started firing on there, so they were clear.
No, I think that they were still loading up the transports when he was...
What he wanted to do was take out the dreadnought, which, don't get me wrong, that's like a big deal, but I think that was the conflict in that scene.
Well, let me ask Adam, like...
Yeah, Adam,
he starts talking to distracting the Star Destroyer before they're all off the planet, right?
Yes.
So, like, that's what I'm saying is, like, he destroyed the dreadnought and ended up getting all their bombers destroyed, but the plan before that was literally to just make them get away. Like, he basically just wanted to force the dreadnought to retreat, and then he decided to actually destroy it.
Yeah.
But it's like, while he was doing that stuff, destroying its air defenses, they were still getting off the planet. Yeah, they weren't off the planet when he was doing that. So literally, they would not have made it.
They were still on the planet while it was firing, but I think literally as it was firing, like its first volley, the last transport managed to get away.
I thought that it was like...
he's right about that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's where the conflict comes in is... it's not that Poe doesn't have a point. That dreadnought is clearly like a super weapon.
But even if not for that, he still did the stuff. Even if they wanted him to go keep that thing busy while they got away.
Oh yeah, I mean, either way, he does do a really heroic. Like he's a.
So they needed him.
They definitely needed him. I don't think the commentary in the movie is as much we don't need Poe or Poe's a piece of shit. I think it's more, Poe is amazing under circumstances where you need a hero. And I think the situation they were in, because they were up against it, they couldn't afford to take the risks Poe wanted to take. I think they needed a more a more level-headed, restrained approach. And I think that's what the commentary is, that, as great as Poe is, because Poe is kind of like the Han Solo character in these movies. I don't like him as much as Han Solo, but he's still good. But he's a really bold, brash character. And I think in a lot of movies, in the original Star Wars movie, Han's, always making the right call. And it's not that Poe doesn't make the right call. It's just that I think it's saying that different situations need a different kind of leader. And I think it's just saying that Poe, as great as he is this is a situation where he needs to cool it a bit.
See, the thing is, the problem I have with that is two things. First of all, like, when they tell him the plan finally, he agrees that it's a good plan. Remember that when he's like, "Oh, they're stealth; they can get away while they just fire on the Capitol ship."
Does he?
Yeah, he does. He says it's a good plan.
Yeah,
he does.
Yeah, he does.
That's my first problem. If they had just because maybe they thought that he wouldn't agree with the plan, but he ended up thinking it was a fine plan. And second of all, even if he didn't, all he said was like, "Do you have a plan?" And she literally just has like this smug look, like, "Just keep your mouth shut," basically. That's why it felt like a power trip to me.
I think because
all she had to say was, "We have a plan, and here it is."
I also think a big part of that character, Laura Dern's character, is like the shift, because I spent the majority of the movie not liking her at all, and I think you're supposed to understand
dislike her.
I think you're supposed to dislike her and then understand
like
where she's coming from after everything's revealed, and I did. I mean, she's not my favorite character, but I ended up kind of going, okay, I understand where you were coming from. Clearly that didn't work as well for you, but
see, that's my problem. Is I know how it was portrayed in the movie, but it's like I feel like it came off the wrong way, and I feel like it was just poorly written. Like it came off as a character on a major power trip, and like and then like the whole thing where she doesn't want him to know that she's being left behind. I don't know. That also felt hollow to me. Like you want to be a hero too by sacrificing yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the whole point of that was like if Poe had just listened to her, none of that would have happened. But if she had just told Poe, none of that would have happened either, because he thought it was
Looking
a good plan.
back, they really I mean, in retrospect, obviously you can't plan on Carrie Fisher unfortunately passing away, but that would have been a lot more powerful if that had been Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
And it would have been, I hate to say convenient, because she's obviously not going to be able to be used in the next movie. So that would have been a kind of a fitting heroic end for Leia. Instead, Holdo, who, I agree there. It's kind of like, why does this character need to, it felt like kind of a random sacrifice. I mean, she said,
I think that was supposed to I think you were right. We were supposed to dislike her than like her, and I never liked her. And by her, when she sacrificed herself and like literally just, we'll talk about there's a lot of stuff to talk about this Lightspeed stuff. When she like sacrificed herself and simultaneously like wrecked 3 Star Destroyers, you were like, wow, she's a badass. I was wrong about her, but I was still like, all you had to do was tell him that you had a plan and what it was, and he would have probably not done what he did.
The way the movie portrays it too is that she is just like has no plan. I mean, because it does portray it that way, because she's basically just like keep going forward, and you kind of get the sense that this character is just
she has no idea.
She has no idea what she's doing. Like, why listen to Poe, you dumb idiot? Like that's I think the mood that's created,
and it felt very smug to me.
I didn't. I mean, I can see that too, but at least at the end of the movie, when you understand what she was doing, you kind of get that idea, and I guess, and that also may be a flaw in her character as well, that she wouldn't trust Poe with that. I mean,
that's
from
one of
her
their
perspective. It was
officers.
Probably, from her perspective, it was probably he's a high-ranking guy. He's bold. He wants to make the big move, and if I tell him what's going on, I don't know what he's going to do. So maybe I'm gonna withhold from him the information. I guess that's where she was coming from in the end.
But I mean, she was just so smug about it. Like, just have hope. And she would just like have like this dumb look on her face, like you're an idiot and you need to keep your mouth shut. She was basically treating like one of their best pilots in the entire force, like with no respect whatsoever. Because really, she wasn't showing any respect. Because I mean, that was he got demoted. First of all, like they had 6 fucking bombers left in the entire Rebel fleet, and they were just had the Empire has Star Destroyers at the butthole still. So I mean, the Resistance has literally nothing left, and it kind of bothers me.
And I mean,
what do they have left at the end of Force Awakens?
More than that,
well, at the end of Force Awakens, I guess what it's supposed to imply is that they depleted a lot of their forces to destroy Starkiller Base. Such a stupid name.
Yeah.
That they depleted most of their forces trying to destroy that, and the First Order still has a pretty.
They still have a
big
lot of
fleet.
stuff left. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which it just bothers me. It's like they have. I mean, every Star Wars movie ever made, whenever there's a space fight, the rebels lose a lot. I mean, it's even in Rogue One, that big fight, they lose almost every X-wing, and it's like it always shows like, okay, they persevere, but in this one, like they lose all those bombers, and that's it. They had no other bombers left, and it's like, how are you going to fight the First Order with 6 bombers?
Yeah, I mean,
they have
clearly
thousands of TIE fighters.
Well, I think that's also what makes it a tough decision. I think if they had a bunch of bombers, then I'm sure they would have said, "Hey, Poe, let's go for this dreadnought." But I think because for forces are so limited, I think it made that decision a lot bigger. Because in another Star Wars movie, if they had taken down a huge thing like that, like a mini Death Star, and only lost, 6 or 7 fighters and some bombers, I feel like that would be a no-brainer. But I feel like in this movie, because they were so limited, that became a bigger decision. Like, look, we need to really think about what we're going to do here. I know we could take out a dreadnought, but we have like nothing left.
I just think that's my whole. It's like, it doesn't matter if you take out that dreadnought. It doesn't matter if you lose those 6 bombers. You have 6 bombers to fight. Like I said, I Googled it, and I think they have like 60 Star Destroyers left, and each Star Destroyer has like hundreds of TIE fighters or 100 TIE fighters on it. I mean, it doesn't matter if you have the 6 bombers or not. You're still screwed. You're still going to die because you have nothing. And I don't understand how I don't like that they literally pigeonhole them into literally. I mean, the entire resistance, they're the rebels again, can fit on the Millennium Falcon. It's like, it's never been like that, and I don't like that they did that.
Yeah, they're definitely up against it in a way they never have been before. And
I don't know. It's just like, I mean, come on, really? Like you literally gave them nothing, and the First Order still has a ton of stuff left. I mean, you can't even like justify them being able to put up a fight at this point.
Well, that's one of the broader tropes that this movie continues in Star Wars in general. Is the First Order, the Empire, whatever you want to call it, is always has a massive advantage, and I think that's just kind of Star Wars.
And why does the First Order still have so much more than... Like, the Republic was in charge for 30 years, and they still couldn't get a leg up on the First Order.
Well, I guess you have to figure the Empire still had a ton of stuff after... Because the Empire had 40 years or whatever to 30 years to build up their stockpiles, and they did it ruthlessly. So, I mean, I'm sure they had tons of stuff even after Return of the Jedi that was just kind of stewing, off in the... hinterlands. So
yeah, I mean, it said the Empire had like 25,000 Star Destroyers, which also like, how do you fight someone that has 25,000 capital ships? I mean, you can't beat them.
Yeah,
I mean, they did beat them, but
that's unbeatable. And the Rebel fleet was never portrayed as having nearly that.
Yeah,
much,
I mean, they never really looked like they had anything.
All right, so what else should we get into here? I guess we can stay on the theme of things we didn't like, because again, like I'll say it again, I love the movie, but I do have issues with it. My thing is, the things I love, which we'll get to, completely outweigh the things I didn't like. But
let's talk about the whole
Canto Bite.
Yeah, with DJ.
I definitely think that's the weakest part of the movie. I will say I didn't mind it as much on a second viewing. The first time I saw that whole part, I was just rolling my eyes like crazy. But I don't know why, but just seeing it a second time, it wasn't offensive to me. It's still my least favorite part of the movie, like my least favorite thread in the movie, but it is definitely the weakest. And it just, even like when they walk into the casino, there's almost literally like a island remix of the Cantina scene playing, or Cantina song playing.
I'll tell you what I liked most about that was that cameo by Justin Theroux.
That was good.
Funny.
That was pretty good.
I really like that.
And I guess he comes in as the code breaker they were really looking for.
Yeah,
the rose plume on his lapel or whatever, but he was pretty good.
Yeah, it's definitely problematic that they, the guy Maz, or the alien Maz, explains there's only one guy in the entire galaxy that's
a character I really did not like either. But
yeah.
Luckily, I think that she was not in this movie much. She's a much bigger part of Force Awakens, which I thought was good.
But it's like, she's like, there's only one guy that can do this, and then, oh wait, you just ended up in a jail cell next to the other guy that can do it.
And that is a plot hole that I agree with. They basically get captured, and Benicio del Toro, who is maybe the second greatest code breaker in the entire universe, just happens to be in the cell next to them. And I mean, this is, make no mistake, this is a movie that you could relentlessly pick apart if you want to. And I don't know. At the end of the day, I guess it just depends on how big of a deal those plot holes and nitpicks are to you in the overall fabric of the movie. To me, the rest of the movie is strong enough that I was able to overlook it, but I don't deny there are definitely some plot holes in this movie where if you break it down, it doesn't hold up to criticism, and that is one of them. I mean, there's no...
Yeah.
It's ridiculous that Benicio del Toro is in that cell with them. I mean, what are the odds in all the universe the second best codebreaker just happens to be in the cell with the two characters that need him? I mean, it's crazy, but...
Well, if we're going to talk about
Star
things
Wars.
we don't like, I think the other big one that I haven't addressed is Luke, because I know you liked how they treated Luke, but I disagree basically on every conceivable level.
All right, well, I guess we can get into Luke. This to me was my favorite part of the movie, and I like, so this will be my favorite thing in it. How'd you feel about Luke, Adam?
I like where it was going for a while, but the ending I didn't like the ending where he force projected. I get what you're saying, where you think that's like the strongest you can possibly be.
So I thought Luke was amazing in this movie, and we haven't really talked about this. So what did you not like about him? Like,
I don't think there was anything in the original trilogy to indicate that he would ever act the way he does in this movie, and that is my biggest issue. Luke never acts like this. He's like the most optimistic character in the entire film series, and he turns into a little freaking hermit in this one who gives up on the Jedi. I mean, he would never. I mean, he converted the most evil man ever, the guy who killed more Jedi than any other Sith, back to the light side. Why the heck would he give up on Kylo Ren if he could flip Darth Vader to the light side? That bothered me. Like, that's just not something he seems like he would ever do.
To me, it just felt like, even more than Han Solo in Force Awakens, it felt like the same character to me, and there were moments that define that. But to me, what Luke always was more than anything was... he was never to me a great leader. He was never to me someone that like meshed well with other people. He was always the guy that came in and delivered in the biggest moment. He was always the quintessential hero. He blew up the Death Star. He defeated Vader and Palpatine. He was always the guy that, he went to Cloud City to face Vader and save his friends. He was always the guy that would, in a moment of crisis, he was always kind of a loner in those first.
He was always kind of a loner in those movies.
He was always a lot of times he was off by himself. He wasn't there. To me, there was nothing in the original trilogy to indicate that he would be any kind of great leader. He was a great person. He was a hero of the highest degree. But I never got in those movies that he was any kind of leader or someone that was supposed to lead the rebellion and be. Yucking it up with all the generals and any kind of that. Luke to me is not a day-to-day guy in the Resistance. Luke is the guy that you bring in for the money shot. He's the guy that's going to come in and destroy the Death Star. He's going to be the guy that in this movie basically walks out by himself facing the entire First Order, and you don't know what's going to happen, and neither side knows. And he's a legend. He even has a scene about it where he says they made me into a legend. And that's, I feel like, what he always was. I feel like he was always a legend. He was kind of this guy that was larger than life, but no one really knew him. And I felt
think
like
we
this
all
movie...
agree on that point, but the point Dave brought was how he lost his like ever-present optimism that he always had.
Yeah, when does he ever indicate that he would do something like that? Like I said, I mean, going back to Darth Vader, he flipped Darth Vader to the light side.
I mean, that's true, but it also, to me, it kind of seems like that's also a Jedi thing. I mean, look what like Yoda would. I never got that Yoda would be the kind of character to go live by himself on Dagobah. I mean, Yoda was always.
Yeah, but that's because like he has to go hide because that's it. I mean, they're killing all the other Jedi. He goes into exile because he was afraid. First of all, he dealt with two of the most powerful Jedi or Sith to ever live, which was Darth Sidious and Darth Vader. The chosen one. So like he has dealt with two of the most powerful of all time, and he's so afraid of Kylo Ren that he thinks he's gonna have to take him out in the middle of the night. And it's like I said, he literally took Darth Vader and redeemed him. How could he not think he could redeem Kylo Ren?
I think to me too, what comes into it is failure. Like Luke never really had to deal with huge amounts of failure. And I mean, I guess to put yourself in his shoes, like Han and Leia are the two closest people to him, and he literally lost their son to the dark side when Han obviously wasn't even really a fan of Kylo being trained in the first place. So it seems like he probably had to do some convincing for both of them to even train Kylo in the first place. And then he loses him to the dark side. And, especially after having thoughts of potentially killing him. I mean, I don't know. I thought that was a fair reason for him to be haunted by that, especially because it is Han and Leia, that it's their kid. It's not just some random kid that went to the dark side. It's Han and Leia's kid. To me, that makes a fair amount of sense, especially how close he was to Han and Leia. And, I can see him being racked with guilt over that. And
And I don't agree that he would ever think he would have to kill Kylo Ren. I think that he would always believe that he could bring him to the light side, and I think he wouldn't have given up like that, because that's what he did. Is he gave up when he was going to kill him.
Well,
like
when
that.
he explained it to Rey, he said it was just like a moment of when he was going to kill him. It was a moment he hesitated, and that's when he woke up and he thought that he was killing
it was
him.
really bad.
But I don't think he would have ever even come to that point. I don't think that Luke was capable
Well, he
of
said
doing
it was
that.
it was like a fleeting shadow, the feeling of
But he had his
wanting to kill him.
lightsaber on.
He did.
He was getting
but-
ready to take him
but
out.
He stopped like while he was going down.
And I don't think he would. I don't think Luke would ever get to that point.
I think we all go through those moments though where we're never going to act on an inclination, but there's
the
a
lightsaber
split
on.
second where something happens. I mean, there have been times where I'm driving down the road and there's an old lady on the side of the road, and the littlest shadow of me really wants to veer and like ram into that old lady, but I'm never going to do it, and I don't really want to do it.
I mean,
But this would be the equivalent of you jerking the wheel
jerking
and
the
jerking
wheel.
it back. That's the thing. This would be like the equivalent of like, you're like, man, I could get a gun and shoot somebody. You get the gun and you point it at him. That's the thing. He went a lot farther than that.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely. I think that's part of the tragedy of it, is the lowest point in Luke's history is just happens to be at a really, really bad time, and because of that, it leads to a cycle of events. And I mean, I'm sure that's one of the things Luke thought of is, God damn it, like if he had just kept sleeping, none of this would have ever happened. But the one moment where I kind of lost my cool, my trademark cool, he looked up and it created all of this. And I don't know, I can understand that haunting somebody, even Luke.
I mean, I can believe that. It's just that I can believe all of that. I just can't believe that he would get to that point where he would actually draw his lightsaber on a child, because I just don't think he would ever give up on training him, or at least, he would come to another conclusion before he's like, I gotta chop this kid up. I just don't think he would get to that point.
I just think it's interesting too, because Luke is so infallible in the original trilogy. I mean, he always wins. I mean, he is the hero, and in this movie, he's something totally different. He's a legend, but he's almost like a myth. No one knows anything about him.
I mean, in the original trilogy, he always wins, but he does lose. I mean, he gets his hand chopped off by Darth Vader. I mean, he goes through a lot of crap, which is a problem I want to talk about with Rey. Rey is like had no trials and tribulations. Luke went through a lot, and Rey, I mean, she is just a killing machine.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll get to Rey in a moment, but I don't know. And then to me, when Luke shows up at the end, I don't know. I thought that was incredible. I mean, that shot of Luke walking out of the mine, and it's that kind of sunset shot. The whole First Order is there, and Luke walks out by himself. I mean, to me, it doesn't get much more badass than that. I thought that was incredible. And once you find out it's a projection of him, I still think that, as Adam was alluding to earlier, I feel like that's one of the most powerful force feats that we've ever seen. I mean, to have the ability to project yourself on a planet that's how many light years away and do all that stuff, and then
he does have another Marvel line when they're all shooting at him, and then they finally stop, and he's standing there. He's like, "What is that? It?" He like has some like quirky line.
Yeah, he does have.
I don't think he says anything. I think he just does he dusts his shoulder off.
That did come off as a little Marvel.
A little bit. I didn't mind it too much.
Something Iron Man would do.
Yeah,
they very much injected their trademark Marvel crap into this movie.
But I don't know. For me, it still totally felt like Luke Skywalker to me, even more so than Han did in Force Awakens. And I think one of the scenes that most embodied it too was when he talks to Yoda, and I guess we can talk about that scene too, because at the end of the day, Yoda is still, oh, Skywalker, I missed you, always staring off into the horizon, because that's another element to Luke that was always there. Luke was always kind of the angsty loner, staring off into the binary sunset, and he liked to be by himself, and I think that quality in him also just took over, especially after the Kylo Ren thing happened. Luke was always Luke was always kind of that type of character as well, and I think that's just the side of him that's in this movie. But at the end, you also see the legend aspect, and to me,
that's actually, I mean, maybe I was asking for too much, but I feel like we didn't get enough of the legend aspect. Like, he didn't fight anybody, which I get. We don't need to see him fight, but I don't know. I feel like after the amount of power he
did take down Rey in that one scene with the sticks. That was pretty cool.
But
I mean, I know it's not a huge fight, but
I get that this is a new trilogy with new characters, but it's like Han did a lot of crap in The Force Awakens. Like, he was taking people out, and I don't think it would have been too much to ask to see Luke like take some people out.
I have to say, I wanted to see Luke do more, like selfish. I mean, maybe not selfishly.
Yeah, it's not really even selfish because like this is Star Wars. This is a sequel to the original trilogy. Like, you know, you don't have to dump your characters off to the wayside for new ones.
Part of the movie and the point with Luke is you don't know if he's going to come back from this. Like he's a shattered, you know, he's a broken individual, and I think they spend the whole movie, you know, portraying that. I mean, he doesn't want to train Rey. He's wants to be by himself. He's racked with guilt. He, you know, can't hold it together. And when he does deliver at the end, I feel like that makes it that much more satisfying. And you still see him beat Rey in the fight there. It's just, and I know it's a brief little thing, but they fight with those batons, and you get a sense like Luke still got it. Like he beats the crap out of her with those sticks. So it's like he's, you know, no one to be messed with. And then at the end of the movie, he delivers on that hint that he's still there, and basically is like, yeah, I can still be the legend if you need me to. But I will say there is part of me that wanted to see him, you know, flashing that green lightsaber and just doing work. But the other thing is, the reason why I'm glad he wasn't actually there at the end is Kylo Ren should be no match for Luke in a single-handed lightsaber battle. So I honestly was as cool as I thought it was when I realized that I thought it was going to be a Luke versus Kylo lightsaber fight. I was like, man, Luke should be able to put Kylo down in 2 seconds with his power. So I think the fact that it was a projection made a lot more sense in that aspect. But and as powerful as Luke was, I don't think he would have been able to destroy the whole First Order, with, you know, by himself. I mean,
I know in the Legends canon he probably could have.
Yeah, probably. But I mean, I don't know. I still thought that was a really badass way to close out that character. I kind of wish he survived. I think that would have been an interesting...
Yeah, he didn't need to die. And that's another problem is I don't like how they're like... And I feel like when Kylo Ren said, you know, we need to let go or move on or whatever, Disney's basically saying, like, listen, you guys don't know what you want. You want to get rid of... We're going to make you get rid of the old characters and embrace our new ones because you don't know what you want. And we all wanted to see Luke doing stuff, but for me, it almost feels like Disney is telling us, no, you don't want that. You want our new characters. We're going to get rid of all the old baggage so we can, you know, bring all this new stuff in, because it's like they really have just been every movie dumping old characters off.
See, I can understand that point of view, but I still kind of disagree, because I feel like Luke, it makes sense that Luke doesn't do more in this movie, and I feel like you're supposed to think it's amazing what he does at the end, and I did personally, but Han does a lot of stuff in Force Awakens.
And then Han, he dies. I know he wanted out of his contract, but it's like, it really felt like we're going to give him a little last ride and then he's got to go.
But he did.
We can't keep him around.
And I agree. I think the way he dies is terrible. I mean, I had a lot more issues with Force Awakens than I do with this movie. We could get into that day and night, but I don't know. It just made sense with Luke in this movie. But
got a pretty good scene on the TV here.
Yeah, this movie's so far has been terrible.
What's going on? Yeah, I haven't watched it.
They're confronting.
We're watching.
Kong.
So just an update. The football game's over and the Rams lost, and we are now watching Kong Skull Island on mute. And
there's a lot of slow motion in this movie.
There's a lot of slow motion, man.
Yeah, there it is.
King Kong is so much bigger too than he was in the Peter Jackson one.
They're already shooting at him.
Yeah.
It's like, we don't know what this thing is, but we're going to shoot it.
See, I don't understand in these movies why the bullets don't hurt these things.
Yeah, cause, I mean, I guess because they're so small. I don't know.
Why are they flying so close?
Yeah, I know.
But they're small, but I mean, those are military grade shells. I mean, they would be piercing through his skin. I mean, I'm sure he could take a lot of bullets, but he doesn't even look like he's being hurt. Wow, they got everybody in this movie. There's John Goodman. There's Loki from the what's his name? Tom Hiddleston. Samuel Jackson's in there. Man.
Yeah, they really went all out in this movie, I guess.
All out on this, man. Kong is voiced by Joe Pesci. No, he's not really. All right, so moving off old Luke Skywalker and on to Rey and Kylo, or just Rey.
Yeah, let's start with Rey, because I had a lot of problems with Rey. And people had a lot of problems with Rey in The Force Awakens, calling her Mary Sue, which I agree with. But
I don't. Sue. I like.
Mary Sue is basically a character that's like infallible, like very strong, has no.
Oh, yeah, she still kind of is that this movie.
First, I don't necessarily agree. I like Rey. To me, Rey, I don't feel like she's a perfect character. I mean, she's someone that's obviously constantly haunted by who her parents are. I mean, that's something that really bothers her. And also her powers, she's really strong. She's definitely probably more powerful than most other characters we've seen just on a base level. But, you know, it also seems like she doesn't have a whole lot of control. And I mean, heck, Snoke puts her down in like 2 seconds in their, if you want to call it a confrontation. So I still feel like she has a long way to go. It's just, to me, it's more like raw power she has. She's like very strong in a raw sense, but because even Luke refers to it as raw power. He's not like, you could take me in a fight. It's more like you have a ton of natural ability. I think the bigger problem is it doesn't seem like the training is, her progression isn't really marked well, in my opinion.
But just in A New Hope, when Luke like first uses the lightsaber, like he can't even deflect those stupid.
Yeah, he doesn't do anything with the lightsaber in New Hope.
And she just picks a lightsaber without ever using one and defeats Kylo Ren,
who has a decent amount of lightsaber. And then in this one, she still has no lightsaber training in this one. And then she takes on that entire room of Praetorian guards, and she is just wrecking them. Like, that's a very good fight, but she is never once on the ropes during that fight.
Yeah, the one guy cuts her across the chest or something. Like, there's 1 second where Kylo like looks over at her and she gets sliced.
Yeah, but he gets on the ropes. She's never on the ropes.
Yeah.
Like, she gets hurt, but she never is at a risk of dying.
But to me, that's a criticism of this whole new trilogy, in that I don't know how powerful Rey or Kylo are, because they both do different things at different times that signify drastically varying levels of power. And I've heard explanation.
Rey just isn't that good. Maybe Kylo's just not as good. Like,
well, no, I think they're both because
those Praetorian guards are good. That's a good benchmark.
Yeah, they're really good. Those red robed guys are basically trained to fight people with lightsabers, so that's their specialty. But at various points in both of these new trilogy movies, Kylo, for example, stops a blaster bolt in Force Awakens in midair, has a conversation in a very casual manner with Max von Sydow, and then lets it go off into like a guy. But he's also getting beat by Rey in combat, and it's just Snoke refers to Kylo as the most powerful student he's ever had, and Luke has all this raw power, and Luke refers to Kylo as incredibly powerful. And it just, to me, neither of those characters have a great progression with tracking their development.
You're right. I mean, they're very inconsistent, but I do think that they're also consistently much stronger than they should be, especially Rey. Like, Rey is, I mean, we don't know how strong Kylo is. Obviously, he's pretty good. Rey is able to beat Kylo in the first movie with no training whatsoever. And in this one, like we said, they fight those Praetorian guards, and Rey, I think, does better than Kylo Ren does, and she still has had no lightsaber training.
Yeah, I mean, maybe slightly, but I think they're portrayed as like evenly matched. I mean, even when they're trying to get the lightsabers from each other, it's right in the middle. I mean, I don't think.
But that's the thing. Why would she be evenly matched if Kylo Ren is he's obviously had a decent amount of training. Like, I just think she's way too strong, and like, it just bothers me that this movie could have been Luke at least giving her some training, and all he does is.
I agree with that. I don't know. I agree. Like, I feel like it would have been nice to see her. Well, to me, it doesn't. For both of those characters, I want to see a progression of their skill set. Like, I coming into this movie, I was really anxious to see how Kylo had improved, but you don't really get an indication of that. I mean, I guess he's better, but there's no hint of that from Snoke. There's no mention of, we've been training, or showing that in any way, because at the end of Force Awakens, Snoke brings Kylo back and is ready to. He even says some line that's like, we're going to make you a master, or something along those lines. And you don't really get to see that at all in this movie. I mean, I guess he's more powerful, but it's not addressed in any way. It's just kind of almost like a off-screen type thing.
Part of the problem is that in the prequel and the original trilogy,
sure.
It's like we see progression really well in both other trilogies.
I agree.
With Anakin and Luke, they train, they get better, and then they're really good. In this one, we have none of that.
And I agree. To me, that's a weakness of both of these movies, is you don't really get to see progression of either of these characters. And I think that's a really tricky task for your old JJ in the last movie of this trilogy, is to
how do you explain where Rey is and how she got there? Like, I mean, she is, at this point, it seems like she is like one of the better Jedi we've seen on screen. Yeah. And it's like, how do we explain where she got there? And the next one, she's probably going to be doing she uses a Jedi mind trick in The Force Awakens, doesn't she?
I don't know if she uses a Jedi mind trick. I think she might, like, accidentally or something.
But it's like, how the heck would she be able to do that? Like, that's something Luke never even used. I don't remember. Did Luke ever use one?
Well, I mean, I'm sure it's implied that he used it, but I think Anakin was the quintessential, someone who started off with an insane amount of power too. I mean, he was the chosen one. I think if Anakin had stayed on the correct path, I think it's implied that he would have been, the most powerful Jedi ever. And I think that's why his story should be tragic. It's handled so shittily in the prequels,
Yeah.
but is that it's kind of wasted potential. And I don't know what Rey's, where her place is in all this, but one of the other things I loved about the movie is that I don't know, and I think we're in disagreement on this. I liked how Rey is not related to someone. I think that was so refreshing.
I think that was a lie, actually.
It could be. I think it could be, and I hope that it isn't, because I think it's just more interesting that. I know it makes it more random in that, who is she to become from nothing? But I feel like that's would have been just felt so stereotypically Star Wars to hold this character's lineage over everyone's head for 2 movies and then be like, oh, she's actually Obi-Wan's long lost daughter. And I would just be like, oh, okay,
But I also don't like that they held it over our heads like it was going to be this big reveal, and then they're like, oh, it's nothing. Like, that bothered me too. Like, they built it up, and then I guess that they were kind of like, flipping the script a little bit.
They also hinted at it in that dark side cave scene where she's looking in the mirror and all she sees is herself, because that's clearly the biggest thing on her mind is finding out who she's related to and what does she mean. Like, clearly she is really powerful, and I think that's one of her big concerns is like, what am I supposed to do? Like, why am I like this? And I think it's interesting that she just finds out that there's not necessarily some lineage that connects it, and she has to find out what to do with that power. And yeah, I mean, it's a struggle for her character, but I don't know.
I wonder if that's going to end up being a lie, because I just have a suspicion.
I do. I actually do too, because it's J.J. Abrams in the last movie, and he's probably, because I know there's backlash about that with a lot of fans.
Yeah,
like
there is.
They want her to be related to someone, and I hope J.J. doesn't cave into that. And it's like, just kidding, she's Kylo Ren's sister or something. I don't know. To me, that would be unsatisfying.
Well, it also, I think, is relevant that Kylo Ren is Han Solo and Leia's son, so he is related to somebody. Yeah. So to make the other main character just like
I feel like
nobody,
that would just be lazy to me. I mean, I guess maybe it's slightly lazily handled, but I really
the reveal I think is
I agree, but I respect the decision there. To me, that's a big enough decision that I still loved it. That's one of my favorite things about the movie. And then I guess Kylo and Rey seem to have a connection in this one.
Yeah, me and Adam were both wondering if there possibly, I mean, obviously there was a ton of sexual tension between them, but I wonder if they were like related, because that very much felt like a throwback. Also with Leia and Luke had the sexual tension in the first movie. That's like a throwback to their connection where they can like communicate telepathically or whatever. And I mean, I know Snoke says that he was the reason they were able to talk, but I wonder if that is because they're related. But I mean, I feel like that we would have known, because Leia would have been like, oh, you're my daughter, or, something like that if they were related.
Well, yeah, or it could be just suggesting that these two characters are, again, like really powerful, and they've kind of just unlocked this other aspect of the Force, or not necessarily
Snoke says it was he was the reason they talked. He said he established the link, I think. So that's the thing. I don't know.
Actually, maybe we should delve off into Snoke real quick, because we haven't really talked about him. I thought Snoke was awesome in this movie.
He was. I wish he didn't die, really.
Yeah, but to me, that's also another thing I loved, is that I like that they killed Snoke, because that kind of subverted what you would expect in a Star Wars movie. He's obviously felt like a Palpatine-esque character, and you kind of expect to be going into Return of the Jedi with the standard setup of, Snoke is the master, Kylo's the apprentice, and Rey is the ray of hope.
Yeah.
Pun not intended. But and the fact that it felt like a ballsy move to me to kill Snoke off. I liked him in this movie, but I also kind of felt like, to me, his character felt a little too similar to Palpatine, where I wanted his character to die, but I really liked what they did with him in this movie. I thought
that's the thing. I didn't want him to die, because I did like, it's like I'm on the fence, because it's like I thought that was like an interesting move, killing him off and having Kylo Ren, because I did not see that coming.
No,
but at the same time, it's like you built him up. He did nothing in The Force Awakens, and then he finally did some interesting stuff in this, and now we don't, that villain. I
thought he was well acted too. His voice,
he was
really
very
great.
Interesting in that.
His throne room was amazing.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
That throne room with this like bright red backdrop. It felt like something out of like Twin Peaks or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was great. It was like campy. I liked his outfit, that gold,
like the robe,
gaudy robe. Like that was awesome, and kind of went in a different direction than a Palpatine. I just loved everything about his character, and I will say there has to be some explanation of who he is in the last
Exactly.
movie,
I would like because we've never seen it like an alien that looks like that.
No, and is he even an alien or like is he disfigured? I don't.
He's big, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's not that big though.
He was bigger than they were.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think
he was pretty
a little
big.
bit, but
no, I feel like he was decently sized.
But in Force Awakens, he's like huge. He
Yeah.
looks like a giant or something. And then he was so goofy in Force Awakens, and I thought that was a pretty tough task to handle that character from what you got with him in Force Awakens to turn him into this. I thought that was a pretty great move. And but we need to know more about him going
exactly because
because
it's just we need to know how he became in charge of the First Order.
Yeah.
One thing. Yeah, how big was he? Wasn't he pretty big?
I don't think he was that much big. I mean, I think
thought he was
maybe a
bigger
little
than
bit bigger
humans.
than.
I honestly wasn't paying.
I really feel like he was bigger than
them.
them.
I I don't know.
If you were to draw a scale model of Snoke at him, where would just kidding. All right, what else?
Kylo Ren we should talk about.
Kylo Ren, I thought
he was handled very well.
I thought he was great. I think he's a really interesting villain because he's almost like a flip side of a coin with Vader. Has a lot in common with Vader in terms of the rage, but he's also more kind of pedantic and childish, but he's also he's torn. He is a conflicted character, but he's also I think he's just really interesting.
I really liked how he was just like he wasn't like evil. It was like I want to move on from this and like make like I feel like he honestly thinks he maybe could make things better than they are.
I think he does too.
And he thought like the fighting was just stupid to him.
Yeah.
But it's at the same time, he was wrong, but it's like I did like the idea like he didn't really want to rule the galaxy. It's almost like he wanted to finally end all this crap that's been going on for like the last 100 years.
He does, and he's such a conflicted character, and I think it's interesting. That's one of my favorite things about the movie is they set it up with this character running the whole First Order. That's a huge
what is he going to do? He's reckless.
He's a loose cannon. I mean, someone like Snoke or Palpatine, they're shrewd and are always going to make the cold, calculating move. But you have no idea what Kylo Ren will do. I mean, he's basically just totally unexpected.
I think that's going to shape the next movie a lot because I could see him like either being smart for once and like recklessly like chasing them down like dogs and not just like not showing so much restraint, or he could go in a totally different direction and maybe even like try to start dismantling.
Yeah, I thought that was one of my favorite things is what they did with Kylo. I thought Kylo was great. I guess we can go into some of the more technical aspects of the movie. We've exhausted a lot of. Briefly, what did you guys think of Yoda?
I thought he looked really bad. I don't know why they did that.
I thought he looked really good in all the close-up shots because they clearly used the puppet.
I think
that first establishing shot of him looked horrible.
Yeah, he looked ridiculous to me.
Because he looked like it was a CGI version of him that looked terrible. But I thought the puppet stuff looked great. I wish they just used the puppet from Empire because it's almost like what they used for the rest of all his close-up shots was the puppet. And I think they should have just stuck with that. But I thought I thought his dialogue was great. I thought he was much better than in the prequels. I thought it felt like the old Yoda to me. And I thought that was an interesting scene.
I don't know. I like Yoda in the prequels. Yeah. I'm a much bigger fan of the prequels than you are, probably.
Yeah, I think you are. But all right, I guess we can get into some of the technical aspects. And that's probably my biggest issue with the movie because most of the other stuff I'm willing to look over. My biggest problem was the score. To me, there were just other than throwbacks to the original trilogy. There were no memorable score in this movie.
Yeah, I actually don't remember anything about. I don't remember
the only thing I remember is that Rey score where it's kind of that chime like.
I don't even remember. The only memorable part of the score is when Snoke tells what's his name about Vader and it plays Vader's theme for a second.
Yeah,
that was good, but that was it.
Yeah, I liked the throwbacks. They played Yoda's theme. They played Luke and Leia's theme when they were together, which I thought was really good. So some of the choices were good, but there was nothing original in this movie and that was memorable to me in terms of score. And that was honestly, out of everything, that was the thing that bothered me the most, like that really annoyed me. Because when I think of the original trilogy and my favorite scenes, almost all those scenes are accompanied by great score.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite scenes is the asteroid chase in Empire Strikes Back, and that has amazing score playing during it. And this movie just did not have any of that unless it was a throwback to the old trilogy. So for me, that was probably my biggest flaw in the movie that stood out the most. I thought the performances were good, pretty much across the board.
Except for Hux.
Yeah, he just the worst. I guess we didn't talk about Finn at all.
That's a major problem with this movie.
See,
Finn is so irrelevant to this film.
I like Finn, but he just
I like him too, but he was
just
irrelevant.
Wasn't really doing anything in this movie, and I also don't care. I didn't have a problem with Rose, but I just feel like their romance made no sense in this movie.
Their romance felt very. First of all, I didn't like Rose. I don't think she came off as very likable. She was just, I don't know. She was a very frustrating character because she felt like she was, I don't know how to explain it, but I didn't like her. And their romance felt very forced. Like, what was the
I
point
agree.
of
That did feel
that
forced.
kiss at the end was
was
really awkward.
It almost makes me feel like that was the intent, is for it to be forced, because that there is no way they would have kept that take of that kiss being that awkward, because Finn is literally just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, he's not even trying to return that kiss, and
Because I thought Finn and Rey was supposed to be a thing, but that tapered off big time.
Faye?
Yeah, Faye. yeah, get the ship names.
But yeah, that did not that relationship didn't work for me, but I guess it was also supposed to go in that what does it mean to be a hero aspect, but it just felt like Finn is, he was trying to sacrifice himself in a Poe-esque way, and it was just, I don't know. I like Finn. For me, he just didn't do anything compelling to me in this movie.
I think that was a very glaring weakness of the writing, is they couldn't find anything good for Finn to do. So they gave him the big side plot, but nothing came of it, and really everybody has complained about that.
The side plot was the weakest, but yeah, all right. Well, Finn, but I thought his performance was still good.
I
like
liked his performance.
I thought Mark Hamill was amazing. I thought in terms of performance, I thought he was great. To me, he blew me away. I thought he gave a better performance even than in the original trilogy. I thought he was just phenomenal. I thought he handled that scene with Leia was great. Oh, that scene at the end where he comes out and handles the First Order, where he looks younger and with the haircut and all that.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I just thought he was great.
I'll tell you one thing I didn't like with the technical aspect. First of all, what did you think about the cinematography? Because I didn't think it was very
I thought
memorable.
it was good. I thought it was the cinematography.
Not memorable.
I mean, and to me, whether or not the plot hole aspect of that light speed impact is...
Oh, God, we didn't even get into that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought the worst part of this.
I thought that looked cool, though.
It did look
It
cool.
looked awesome.
I did not like the slow motion in the Luke Kylo fight.
Oh, yeah, me too. I didn't
thought
like
that was really
I
bad.
didn't like it, but it just didn't bother. I mean, it's there for like a second.
I thought it was bad. I was just like, ugh. that hurt.
Yeah, I mean,
when Luke goes under.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I agree. It just didn't. It was there and gone, and it didn't bother me that much.
For some reason, that hung on with me.
In the mind of Adam, and when he thinks about the movie, the slow motion cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's just briefly address the light speed
all right, we
thing.
can briefly
That was a
address
cool
this.
scene, but the fact is it creates a lot of problems, because if that's a legitimate thing that they can do, why wouldn't they just be sending X-Wings through the bridges of Star Destroyers all day long?
I have no defense to this. There's no defense for that. It's a plot hole. Again,
and I
I'm
feel
willing to go along with it because it's Star Wars, but yes, theoretically, it's like, why don't you put robots in X-Wings instead?
Because X-Wings can jump to light speed.
Like large hunks of steel, put a hyperdrive.
Yeah,
in,
I guess it also, like perhaps maybe the First Order shields were down or something. Maybe a shield being up would be able to repel that.
I don't think their shields were down. Because I mean, there's actually there's a Star Destroyer that could pull ships out of a hyperdrive, but they didn't have one there.
Yeah,
like the interdictor class. So it's like, and I feel like if the Rebels wouldn't do it, the Empire definitely would do it, because they don't care about sacrificing people.
No, the Empire.
If they could lose one Star
Destroyers or whatever, they'd send 5 of them to go.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. I really have no defense for that. I was trying to think of one, and other than just the fact that you'd have to potentially sacrifice people to do it.
But I mean, they don't care about sacrificing.
The Empire
people.
wouldn't care, or the First Order wouldn't care. I agree.
And it not only that, but it's like, it never happened before, and it's like, I feel like Rian Johnson.
That woman's cheekbones. Sorry.
What?
It's Brie Larson.
She's got some very prominent cheekbones, I guess. Yeah. But
Adam's love stricken over here. Won't tell Laura.
That to me was just Rian Johnson was like, I gotta get this scene in here that people are going to be talking about, and you know, Also, the Leia scene, which I know you didn't hate as much. That scene has gotten a lot of
I thought it was
disdain.
cool. I admit the first time I saw it, it was a little cringy for me, but when I thought about it more, and especially seeing it a second time, and I liked the slowed down version of her theme playing, I thought it was cool to finally see her show that she has pursued her Force training to some degree. I thought it was cool.
It just bothered me,
and especially since it wasn't like she did it effortlessly or something, just flew around. Like, you know, she kind of floated back to the ship, and it clearly like sapped the life out of her.
I don't know. I really didn't like it. I thought it was stupid, and I feel like if I like the idea of her using her Force powers for once, but I feel like there's so many other ways that she could have done it. Like she could have used herself, like instead of getting sucked out of the bridge and flying back in, she could have used herself to like, prevent herself from getting sucked out.
I think overall, to me, I just respect that this movie, there were bold, different ideas that you don't see in other Star Wars movies that this movie went for.
But they also like went so safe on some routes, like with Rey. Like there's some stuff they could have done with Rey. Like imagine how cool this movie would have been if Rey had flipped to the dark side.
Yeah.
That would have been a bold choice.
I'm cheered in the movie theater.
Or if Kylo Ren flipped and came back to the light side. Those would have been bold choices, but they did neither of those.
Yeah, but I mean, killing Snoke was bold too. I mean, they're like, I guess.
But after the way he was treated in Force Awakens, it was a bold choice because people are upset about it. But they didn't build him up enough for people to be like, oh crap.
But at least in terms of ideas, I think there were some different things, like the Luke Force projection. That's nothing you've ever seen in any Star Wars. The light speed thing, whether you like it or not, it's different. I mean, it creates it the very.
That's the thing. I don't agree that just because they took a chance, we should praise them for it.
Yeah, I guess. Well, for me, most of the chances worked for me. So I mean, I guess it's fair to say if the chances didn't work for you, then yeah. But to me, most of the things they went for the goal on, it worked. That's not even an expression. What am I? But went for.
I still struggle. I couldn't believe that low speed chase was the central plot of the movie. Like I was just like,
I think what bothered me about that was like when they were like, how much fuel do we have left? Like 18 hours. Like, oh, it's gonna be the whole movie, isn't it? Really? Because I thought it was gonna be like that wasn't gonna be the entire movie, and it was.
I liked it because for me it was something. Force Awakens literally just lifts the same plot off Return of the Jedi and New Hope. There's a big bad new base that's 10 times bigger than the Death Star that we've got to destroy, and we're gonna fly in there and shoot the button on it, and it's gonna explode it. To me, this was at least something totally different, and I liked it. I thought it kind of grounded the whole movie. It gave a consistent throughway, and I also like the idea of that whole chase kind of being like the center point for people to come in and out of and go off on their own adventures, and then come back to that as kind of a central location. It worked for me. I mean, it's not, I wasn't like getting up and cheering about it, but it worked for me.
I feel like that if they wanted to take another interesting direction, they could have like had, because in The Empire Strikes Back, the rebels are basically on the back heel again, right? Because like they're backed into a corner. What if they could have had the First Order backed into a corner? And I feel like that would have been way more interesting. Like imagine if like they were on top for once and they were on the offensive. That's something they could have done that would have been a risk. Because I mean, that is a similarity between this and The Empire Strikes Back. Like they're backed against the wall again, and then they just pull a rabbit out of a hat at the end.
I agree. I think that would have been interesting. I mean, I don't disagree there. I'm okay with what they did because to me, it follows in Star Wars trope fashion, and I mean, there's only so many ways you can branch off. But I agree. I mean, that would have been interesting. Maybe. Who knows? I mean, I know J.J. Abrams isn't going to do that with the last movie.
Yeah, but I don't know what he's going to do with
I don't know.
I'm
that movie has a lot to do in that movie.
I hope that they introduce a new villain and it's just so contrived and Kylo and Rey have to team up to kill him. I hope they do.
Or what if Palpatine is just back? And there's no explanation for it. He's just back.
And they got to fight him and beat him.
Rises.
Because I do think that movie...
no exposition as to why he's back. There's just a scene where Kylo goes up the elevator.
Rancor shows up with Jedi.
Rancor. It's got two lightsabers. I do think that movie, no matter what happens, it ends with Kylo Ren being redeemed. Like maybe on his deathbed like Darth Vader, but it's going to end with him being redeemed. It's going to be
interesting too, because it's like, who's he going to redeem himself like from? I mean, there's no Snoke to kill.
The hooded Rancor.
Well, that's the thing. That's a good question, but I do think that it's going to be
Hux?
Rey is going to flip him back to the light side in the last minute. I really think that's the only way that this goes.
Yeah,
I hope it doesn't go that way.
Yeah, Darth Banks appears. That's a scarier villain than I'm willing to see. That strikes the fear in me just thinking about it. But Misa not ready for that. But all right, I don't know. I mean, there's more we could talk about, but I think
we've hit a lot.
We've hit most of the major stuff. That's for sure. I think it's pretty clear we Whether we liked it or not, we definitely were involved in the viewing of this. So
Yes.
I think that's fair to say. All right. Should we give any final thoughts or just any ratings?
Yeah, let's give some final thoughts. Like, just say what you liked and didn't like, and then give a rating. So let's start with Adam.
All right. I really liked the Rey storyline. I thought it was pretty good. I loved the lightsaber fight. I mean, people say, were you saying people thought?
Yeah, people were saying that that's the best fight in the entire series, which I disagree with.
I disagree with, but I thought
it's
it
a
was
very
cool.
good fight.
A lot of people, a lot of fans are upset about that. I thought it was cool.
I mean, there's reasons to be upset about it, but
yeah.
I thought the casino storyline. What's his name? I can't.
Canto Bite or whatever.
No, the character's name.
Finn?
Finn's. Yeah, Finn's storyline was really bad. I thought they handled Luke well up until the Force projection. I know Sam really likes
I loved
that,
it,
but
fair enough.
I don't like how he went out on that. Like, and they should have killed Leia and kept Luke.
One thing I love too, whether you like that he died or not, I thought the fact that he died staring out at the two suns, I thought that was perfect.
I thought that was cool.
If they're gonna kill that character in this movie, I can't think of a better way to have done it. I mean, that completely ties into who he was in the first movie, and I thought that was a cool ending note for him.
Yeah, I agree.
Dave.
So what's your 10 out or
what's your rating, Adam? Out of 10.
Out of 10, I would say 4.5.
Oof.
All right.
Lower than I thought it was going to be.
Well, I mean, if half the plot of the movie doesn't make any sense leading
No,
nothing,
that's fair.
My score is going to be close. I can tell you that. Yeah. So let me go with mine then. My number one favorite thing was the porgs. I love the scenes the porgs were in, and maybe that's like bad, or maybe I'm buying.
That's not bad.
I'm buying into Disney's. I love
the
Wait. One more thing. I really liked the when the Falcon showed up on that planet. That whole chase scene.
Oh, that was really
cool.
Oh, where Chewie was driving it through. That was awesome.
I thought
Visually,
that was really
another visual flair that I thought was great.
Also ties into the porgs because the porg was flying
there,
around
man. Is it just me or did Chewie seem a little different in this movie? Like
I like Chewie in this
a little different, or I guess maybe just because he's older, but he sounded a little different to me.
Well, it's possible that they are using different people to do it.
True.
But I like the way Chewie was in this movie. I kind of disliked how he got kind of ignored by the other characters so much. But I like the way I felt like it was Chewbacca. That's the thing. It felt like Chewbacca.
It felt like Chewbacca, definitely. And that scene where he's flying through the crystal mine cave is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was really good.
All right. So porgs are my number one favorite thing. I did like Chewbacca. I like the Millennium Falcon. I like the way they handled Kylo Ren's character. I feel like they took him in a direction I didn't expect, and he developed very well. I liked the lightsaber fight. It was pretty good. That's probably all the stuff I really liked. Disliked. Didn't like Holdo's character. I basically didn't like any of the new characters. DJ Rose. I didn't like the way they handled Rey. The way I really don't like how they handled Luke, and I think the writing was just weak. So I'm gonna go to a 5.5 out of 10.
Okay, not bad. I loved Luke. Luke was my favorite part of the movie. I thought Mark Hamill did a great job performance-wise. I thought that character felt like Luke to me, like an older, wisdom-filled version of Luke. I like Rey a lot. I like Rey and Kylo. I think they're both great characters. I think performance-wise, they're really well done by Adam Driver and Daisy Ridley. I think they both give great performances. I love the Yoda scene. That was a great scene to me. I like Poe in the movie. I like pretty much all the characters, some more than others. The dislikes, I hated the fact that the score was weak, but not a huge deal overall because they did play some memorable cuts from the original trilogy. And I thought the Finn and Rose romance was kind of weak, but again, on a second viewing, it didn't bother me that much. And yes, there are other nitpicky things I don't like about the movie, but to me, the highs are really, really, really high, and the lows are kind of like middling. So, boys, I'm going 9. It's a 9 banger.
You think
for me.
this is worth a 9?
I think it's a 9. I love it. I mean, I'm not.
I'm curious how time will treat this movie. I am
too.
Curious.
I'm really curious too. I enjoyed it a lot. I would say the first, as soon as the credits rolled in the first viewing, I would say I was probably around a 7 on this thing, and I like with needing to think about it. But seeing it again, problems were cleared up for me, and I think it's really good.
All right, well, I'm glad you stuck to your guns at least, because we were dogging on it all night.
Yeah, so I liked it. All right, should we get into what else do we want to? We want to
rank the movies.
Yeah, so we're gonna rank all the Star Wars movies right now. So I guess do we want to just give the rankings? Like, I don't think we need to really talk about each one.
No, let's just go Yeah.
So here,
We can like talk about it at the end where we put movies.
yeah.
Because I got to think
so
about it because I didn't write this out.
I guess we'll start with
Start with me.
Adam.
Yeah, what's your number?
My least favorite.
Your least favorite.
So I guess go from
Bottom to top.
bottom to top.
All right, my least favorite would probably oh my gosh, probably be Force Awakens.
All right.
Out of all of them?
Out of all of them.
All right.
Do you want me to keep going?
No, let's just go around
All right.
table. My least favorite would also be The Force Awakens.
My bottom would be Attack of the Clones.
Okay, Adam.
Yeah, that's my number 2. At least.
All right, my second least favorite is The Last Jedi.
My second least favorite is Phantom Menace.
Yeah, Last Jedi.
All right, next for me is Rogue One.
Next for me is Rogue One.
Oh, we gotta do Rogue One too.
Yeah.
Oh man. I think I would put Rogue One above Phantom Menace maybe. So I would say Phantom Menace next.
All right. What did I say? Rogue One. Let me think.
You still have all the prequels.
Yeah, I guess I would go Attack of the Clones next.
Next for me would be Revenge of the Sith.
All right. I would do Rogue One now.
All right, I actually think I would go Revenge of the Sith next.
Next for me would be, where are we at? I've done all the prequels. Next for me would be Force Awakens.
Yeah, Revenge of the Sith.
The next for me would be Phantom Menace.
After that, for me, it is close between Return of the Jedi and Last Jedi for me. I will go Last Jedi. It's close, though. That's the one that could change. Last Jedi will never eclipse Empire Strikes Back for me. It will never eclipse A New Hope. It could overtake Return of the Jedi for me, but I will go, as of right now, Last Jedi next.
Well, it's pretty much a no-brainer. The last 3
Yeah, for me,
it'd be the originals.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, how do you rank them?
well, I'll just do mine real quick. Return of the Jedi, New Hope, and of course, Empire Strikes Back.
Mine are exactly the same as Adam.
Yeah,
so.
same here. It's Jedi, New Hope, Return of the Empire. So what we all establish is we clearly all love the originals the best. I mean, that's something we can all agree on. I like the new trilogy. But all right. Anything else we want to cover here? We've exhausted some Star Wars knowledge. Did you have some other stuff?
Oh yeah, we probably should have gotten into it earlier. There was some stuff coming out. Mark Hamill was basically. There were a lot of clips he claims were taken out of context, so it's kind of hard to say because I mean, Disney has got the gun to his head.
We talked about this in an earlier episode, but Mark Hamill was definitely not on board. It seemed
he
like
was
he
saying he wasn't on
for
board
some of the decisions.
And then he came out later and said that basically like he came around big time. But
Yeah.
I really wonder if Disney just put a gun to his head and was like, you better say what we want you to say.
I feel like it was probably both. I mean, I feel like he probably had some reservations, but I think it genuinely seems like he respects the movie, or I don't think I don't know. He just seems to be.
They're not going to let him badmouth this movie.
The thing I want to know is at least in the prequels and in the originals, what's his name? George Lucas was calling all the shots on like the storyline, right?
Yeah.
Like who's calling the shots on where this goes? Like
Kathleen Kennedy. I'm guarantee you it's her. She's the head of Lucasfilm right now, and I think it's like, I mean, that's another thing I want to talk about. Ryan Johnson went on Twitter and said that when he ever had like an idea, he would go to Kathleen Kennedy, she's a producer, she's produced a lot of good movies, and she's head of Lucasfilm, and ask her if it was okay, basically. And to me, that says Ryan Johnson wasn't even allowed to call the shots. He literally had like someone over, like, no, you can't do that. Yeah, you can do that. So I really think his creative control of this movie was dramatically limited.
I don't know, because to me this felt like, out of all the Star Wars movies, one of the more. To me, it felt like a distinct vision where, like, I didn't get that from Force Awakens, really. Like, other than, like, lens flare stuff, I didn't necessarily feel like Force Awakens was, like, a quintessential J.J. Abrams movie.
Well, it's just like the Leia
to me, this
scene.
felt like a Rian Johnson movie, for better or for worse. I mean, that's kind of annoying that he would have to go to her and check in with her like that, but I don't know. Maybe they're just on a similar wavelength, but to me, it feels like he still made a Rian Johnson movie.
I mean, he doesn't have a big filmography to go off of. But the Leia scene, he even said, was her idea. She told him she wanted a scene with Leia using her force powers in the movie. So it's like, it's very clear her influence over the movie was at the very least significant, if not she was in total creative control. And I very much believe she was in total creative control.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say whether or not she was, but I would be willing to bet that she was, like, you can't do that. And he was like, okay. Because, I mean, he has no push. He's not like Steven Spielberg. Like, if she tells him to do something, he's going to do it because, he's made Looper is his only really big film before this.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised that he was. Well, no, he did that movie Brick too, which I hear is really good.
Yeah, but I mean, that's it. That's like 2 movies.
No, I know.
I mean, that's
it's not like he's Spielberg or
not even J.J. Abrams.
No, he's not even J.J. Abrams. But I don't know. I thought he did a good job. Whether I'd be interested to see how much back and forth there was between the two because it seems like they had a really good. I mean, I guess it is theoretically possible that he came with her to ideas and she liked the ideas that he had. I mean, I guess. Maybe
I feel like
it's naive to think that they had that relationship, but it's possible.
With Disney, the way they are, Disney is going to exert its influence over everything it puts out. And there's no way. I mean, there are things that they're going to say are not okay to be in their movies. So I just feel like it was probably much more than that. I mean, Disney has a vision for their films, and it's like it's going to be in every one of their films. There are things that are going to happen because it's Disney.
Well, apparently Disney had like the chokehold on that new Star Wars game. Like they had that
Battlefront?
That Battlefront game.
Oh yeah.
Like I guess what they wanted to do was they originally wanted to do like something like Overwatch, how they have like you can buy loot boxes that will like give you cosmetic stuff.
Well, wasn't the big criticism of the game like you have to buy DLC or something?
You would have to buy crates.
Yeah, you
to
have to
get
buy
the stuff.
crates, but the thing is, the crates you'd actually get really good stuff out of those crates that would help your character in the game. At least in Overwatch, when it's all
more
cosmetic
extra stuff. Yeah,
but they wanted to do that. Like the developer actually came out and said we wanted to do that originally, but Disney would not okay any of our cosmetic. Kind of like because they wanted to like make stormtroopers maybe have like cool camouflage and stuff like that, and they said Disney would not approve anything.
Well, how about with the Han Solo movie? That is very much a case of Disney came down like a ton of bricks. First of all, like they went in there and they were obviously meddling with the set because they didn't like how the movie was turning out, so they brought in like an acting coach. They were going over the directors' heads. I mean, that even came out, and that's why they quit. So with the Han Solo movie, they were going over the directors' heads trying to do stuff, and it made the directors quit. Or I don't remember if they fired them or if they quit. But either way, that was very much a case of Disney was like, you're not doing the things the way we want you to do them. So that's it.
Yeah, I mean, Disney is all about those money bags.
Yeah, Disney's terrifying.
It's true, but.
And then they brought Ron Howard in, who is, a much better director, but I bet he's yes
safe.
Man.
He's safe.
Yeah, he's safe. I don't know. I don't like what Disney's doing. I do think that these movies are going to start falling off a cliff creatively. So we'll see.
I will say this. I am a fan of the new trilogy. I do not like it as much as the original trilogy, but to me, it's way better. They're way better than the prequels, but it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. I can definitely see down the line a time where I don't like Star Wars anymore. I mean, I didn't like Rogue One. I'm already not a fan of young Han Solo movie because to me, we've seen young Han Solo. His name's Harrison Ford.
Yeah, he's
even
not
old in those movies. And this guy they have playing Han Solo doesn't look any younger than Han Solo did in A New Hope. Like, we've seen young Han Solo. This feels so inconsequential to me. And it feels like just a straight cash grab. And then, whatever, they're going to do a Boba Fett movie, and what the hell is going on?
The rumors that there's going to be an Obi-Wan film, which we talked about.
Yeah, Kong Skull Island's going off the rails here. It's Loki's looking at a dead skull, and there's a
pretty good scene you missed where he was like, they showed like the aim down sight, like he was like aiming the M16, and then it looked like it was from a video game.
Oh man, it's like Doom.
Yeah, like Doom.
That Doom first person action scene from Doom.
I don't know. I guess they're stuck on this island, but they don't seem that distressed. Like the girl keeps taking pictures, and it's like, you're gonna die.
Kong skull there, like more.
I'm sure Kong is not. Maybe it's like Kong's brother. He died. He couldn't bury him.
Kong's little brother, Pong. All right. Well, I don't know, boys. I think we're about spent here.
Yeah, we just talked a lot of Star Wars tonight.
We did. You guys have your Star Wars fill. So, Adam, always great to have you on the show.
Thanks a lot.
We hope to have you back soon.
Yeah, me too.
And stay tuned, folks. We're going to have a big episode next. Dave and I are seeing a lot of these movies that will release at the end of the year because we're going to have our end of the year countdown of our favorite movies of 2017 coming up next. So stay tuned. It's going to be big, huge. So thank you for joining us. And as always, join us on Facebook for Serious Film Critics. We're on Twitter as well at serious_critics. And send us your emails at seriousfilmcritics@gmail.com. Take it easy, guys.